Some basic rules of thumb and financial rules of thumb. We have 17 rules of thumb that most of our students are going to operate out of. If you like systemize your finances within those 17 rules of thumb, that is going to be like one of the biggest drivers to your success, because a lot of those are like big ticket items. And so like if you can stay within those big rules of thumb, I'll give you a few examples. Keep your mortgage payment below 25%. That includes taxes and insurance and all that kind of stuff. If you're able to do that, like the reason those things are in place is to give you the wiggle room to make good financial moves elsewhere. And so you don't have to abide by those, but if you put those into your system and you put those into your life, it's hard to lose. And so if you just put those in there, and I think the second piece of it is automating. Like I don't think people realize, I know it sounds simple, but I don't think people realize how important automation is for your finances. Because if you create a plan, and what we do with all of our students is create a systematic plan that gets them from point A to point B based on what they told us. If we know you want to get to point B, we know all of the inputs that go into that. If we now automate that process, automate that system, so your bill pay down, your debt pay down, your investments, and we just set that up one time, all you have to do is show up to work, and you don't even have to pay attention to what's going on in your finances, and it will naturally work. And you'll know the timeline in which that works, which lights people up and gives people that emotional component, which is actually a healthy part of the emotional component with finance, because you don't want to have a ton of emotion when it comes to finances. But if you can see the end in sight, and you know before you start that marathon exactly which way you're going and exactly the route you're going to take and the pace you're going to go, you know that one, I'm excited because I see it. I can feel it. I can see it. I can breathe it, all that kind of stuff. I can taste it. Like you really know what's going to happen. That naturally will light you up. And I saw that with a lot of people, with us in particular at first with debt pay down. We saw the end goal. We saw how much principal we were going to pay, the interest we were going to pay, the timeline we were going to pay, because we listed out an amortization schedule. When we saw that, we realized what was actually doable. It wasn't just an emotional feel of like, it's probably going to be paid off in 12 months, or I'm never going to pay off my student debt. When we saw that, it lit us up to figure out, okay, well, what if we added an extra $250 per month? Or what if we added this per month? That creates creativity, and that creates solutions, and that creates action. And so you systemize, you organize, you know the bare minimum of what's going to happen. Then you get creative. Then you get emotional towards, in a good way, towards your finances, and you go figure out, you become resourceful to speed that journey up, to get to that millionaire status quicker, to get to that financial freedom quicker. And that's a really, really encouraging thing. But I don't think people realize how important automation is, how important a system is, because when you see it, when you feel it, when you taste it, it's so much more doable, and so much like you can really envision it. And so that's what's holding a lot of people back. And it comes down to something very, very simple at its core. But I think that's why it's not talked about, is because people don't realize the power of what that is.
100%. I find it fascinating. It's so interesting when you have your own personal experiences with things and then you hear about how somebody else struggles with them. It's like, for example, the automation side of things. When you mentioned that, like that didn't even cross my mind as one of the potential issues that people run into. Because to me, at the time, after the way I organize my finances, it just seemed second nature. But it's like, it's not one of those things that I remember somebody teaching or something of that nature. And it's like, that is one of the most critical pieces. Like if you automate it, it's on autopilot. Like
It's a
it'll,
math equation. It
yeah,
really is. So you can tell, like, if you have the right tools, which we use a balance sheet, amortization schedule, and a budget. So we know our free cash flow from our budget. We know what our goals are on our balance sheet. We know where our current net worth stands. We know where we're trying to get to because we mapped it out. We talked about our goals of where we're trying to get to. And our amortization schedule, our amortization schedule has the exact debt pay down timeline with exact principal and interest. And all of this is a math equation. And so if I know exactly the timelines of everything of when I'm going to get from point A to point B, and then I automate that, like you can't lose, like you can't mess that up unless you, like I always say, lock the system and then go off with your life and go do whatever. Because as long as your system is working and you're not manually manipulating things, or the market goes down and you freak out and you change your strategy all of a sudden, or something happens and you decide not to pay off debt that month versus when you would have if you would have automated that, you'd be amazed at what happens. And if you have all the different, levels of protection in place, none of those things will be impacted. So people might naturally go to like, what if I lose a job? What if I, have an emergency? What if I do this? You have all the protection agents like in your castle already set, like the moat's already around your finances. and within everything's automating. And so if something comes and attacks that castle, your moat protects you already so that stuff is not impacted. And that is such an important topic, and it's just not talked about. I don't think even financial professionals understand the impact of it. The reason I've understood this so in depth is because we work with a behavioral psychologist for all of our students, and I've seen the behavioral and the mental aspect of finance. And a lot of it has zero logic. A lot of it's all of that and zero math and zero logic. And so how do I take out the issue of behavioral and mental is literally systemize, automate, and basically AI your way to success and take out the human component as much as I possibly can. And so that's why it works so well. But again, it's a very simple concept until you actually implement it. And you can see the step-by-step in all your financial statements, which is really cool as well.
That's very fascinating. I love that. The behavioral side of things is huge. I didn't realize how big of a deal it was until I met my current girlfriend, and she came from that realm of things and pointed out a lot of amazing things. And I didn't realize how much it's our human nature is actually against us rather than for us. So
It's finances are the reason people stink at finance is because our human nature is directly hurting us every single day. We don't want to stay still, and you have to stay still to win in finance. That's the essence of it.
if you want to save time on watching all the episodes, but still get all the gold nuggets that we find from interviewing these 7, 8, and 9-figure entrepreneurs, then you can get all of that inside of the 2 Comma Club newsletter. Just go to 2ccnewsletter.com and subscribe.